Hello and thank you for joining us on the Capitol Report on NTD television. I'm your host, Steve Lance. Homeland Security Chief Alejandro Mayorkas said ICE was investigating the death of at least 50 illegal immigrants that died inside a sweltering hot 18-wheeler in San Antonio, Texas, yesterday. Mayorkas blamed human smugglers, saying they have no regard for the vulnerable people that they exploit and endanger. San Antonio's fire chief says they found 16 people alive, including 4 children. They were taken to the hospital.
The patients that we saw were hot to the touch. No signs of water in the vehicle. It was a refrigerated tractor trailer, but there was no visible working AC unit on that rig.
Senator Ted Cruz said human traffickers are exploiting the open border and the most vulnerable are paying for it with their lives. President Biden's nominee for ICE has withdrawn. He withdrew amid a delay in the confirmation process. In a tweet, Ed Gonzalez noted that he was nominated for the post over 1 year ago and that there had not been a Senate-confirmed ICE director since the Obama administration. Gonzalez has come under fire from Republicans for his lack of support on border security. Congressman John Joyce joins us next to discuss the tragic death of the at least 50 illegal immigrants that were being smuggled into the U.S. Congressman John Joyce, thank you so much for joining us on the Capitol Report.
Great to be with you.
Congressman, if I could just start by getting your thoughts on illegal immigrants who were found dead while suffocating in a tractor trailer while being smuggled into the country. How could a tragedy like this have been prevented?
This is really unfortunate for the illegal immigrants who suffocated to death traversing our border. But this is a border crisis that was created by Joe Biden. Joe Biden, by not allowing us to have the sovereignty of our country with a secure southern border, has invited these types of egregious activities to occur. And these tragic deaths truly are the responsibility of not having adequate border patrol, adequate protection, not having a border wall to protect Americans. The porous southern nature of our border allows drugs and the illegals to continue to pour through our country. This tragedy rests firmly on the irresponsibility, the lack of courage for Joe Biden for securing our southern border.
Congressman, just transitioning a little bit here, what do you say to the, when it comes to energy independence, the American people who may not fully understand the inner workings of what's driving the high gas prices, oil futures, et cetera, who just think that it's an unfortunate situation wherein because of the Russia-Ukraine war?
The rising price of gasoline is a crisis was created by President Joe Biden and his personal war on American energy. Biden, by canceling the Keystone XL pipeline, by putting a halt to new drilling leases, and by continuing to blame American companies for rising prices, Joe Biden has failed the American people, who are now paying 2 times what they were for gasoline before Biden took office.
Congressman, if the U.S. were actually to start producing oil at Trump-era levels, would this also help to reduce the cost of gasoline around the world, do you think?
The energy that we need to solve the energy crisis is directly under the feet of my constituents. The coal, the oil, the natural gas and Marcellus Shale that is needed to power our cars, provide electricity to our grid, air condition our homes, can all be provided safely and affordably by using the resources that we have right here in America. President Ronald Reagan said it clearly, that we can have peace through strength. And in today's world, that strength is providing energy security to our friends and allies. And America right now should be doing that.
It appears that French President Emmanuel Macron nudged President Biden a bit on the sidelines of the G summit to start suggesting for the United States to start producing oil. Do you think President Biden will budge?
Let's see. Let's look back at what President Biden has blamed on the oil and energy crisis. He blamed corporate greed. He's blamed the war in Ukraine for rising gas prices here in the United States. and he'll blame anyone and anything except for assuming the responsibility for his own failed policies. Now he's trying to convince Saudi Arabia to pump more oil to alleviate the crisis. You know what? Simply said, that won't work. And even President Macron from France recognized that. That's why he nudged, pushed, encouraged President Biden to produce more American oil, to produce more American energy. My constituents who can supply that energy, America, what can supply that energy, also is encouraging President Biden, look to the resources that we have right here at home. We can solve this problem. We don't need to be relying on foreign sources for these energy input. Macron recognizes that, I recognize that, and clearly American citizens recognize that as well.
Pennsylvania Congressman John Joyce, thank you.
Thank you.
The Biden administration today rolls out an action plan on abortion access. It comes as pro-abortion activists urge stronger action, and as pro-life groups say what the administration is considering violates the law.
Announcing what's called an action plan, Health Secretary Javier Becerra on Tuesday unveiled steps the Biden administration will be taking following the Supreme Court's ruling on Roe v. Wade.
At HHS, we will leave no stone unturned. All options are on the table.
Those actions, he says, include ensuring the privacy of those seeking abortions, training more clinicians in family planning, and expanding access to abortion pills. But one potential move is stirring controversy. Becerra says the administration is considering using taxpayer money to pay for transportation for women seeking out-of-state abortions.
Yeah. Once we tell you exactly what we believe we are able to do, have the money to do, we will let you know. But until then, what I can simply say to you is every option is on the table.
The idea is being pushed by some congressional Democrats, but it could also violate the law.
The Hyde Amendment is pretty simple. It prohibits the use of any federal funds for an abortion or for any health insurance coverage.
And here's the Secretary's response to the legal question over the weekend.
Assisting in transportation, something that HHS doesn't typically do.
Can you do that legally?
Talk to me later.
While the Secretary says everything will stay in the legal boundaries, Katie Glenn, the director of a pro-life organization, tells NTD that she's expecting the worst from this administration.
We're absolutely concerned that the Biden administration sees everything on the table, even if it violates the actual law of the Hyde Amendment, which has been in place to make sure that we, the taxpayers, do not have to pay for abortions except in very narrow circumstances at the federal level.
Meanwhile, Claire McKinney, a professor of government and gender studies at the College of William and Mary, tells NTD she doubts the Biden administration will actually go that far.
Honestly, their response is rather tepid, right? They're very slow in making these decisions. And so I would be very surprised if they made any strong or radical moves to even, promote something that could be challenged in the court.
And Senator Josh Hawley responded to the possibility of the move being considered on Twitter, writing its legal, quote, under no circumstances.
Voters are headed to the polls today for primary elections in a few states. Republicans are eyeing which seats to flip to take back the majority in Congress. And some governors are up for re-election. New York's new governor and Illinois' first-term governor will face the voters tonight. NTD's Melina Wisecup brings us more.
Illinois lost a seat for this election cycle after the 2020 census, leaving two Republicans competing for one seat. First-term Congresswoman Mary Miller is up against Congressman Rodney Davis. Over the weekend, former President Trump visited the 15th District to endorse Miller.
Then this Tuesday, you need to cast your vote for a truly wonderful person, Mary Miller, respected by everybody. Mary, come on up.
The district that Mary and Rodney are running in, President Trump is very popular, and so in that particular segment of our state, I think it does have an impact on people.
According to the nonpartisan Cook Political Report, 5 of the House seats in the state are winnable for Republicans. That's the minimum number they need to flip the majority in the House. There's also a Senate seat up for grabs. Democrat Senator Tammy Duckworth is running for re-election and will face the Republican nominee in November. And first-term Governor J.B. Pritzker is facing voters tonight. Illinois resident and candidate for Attorney General Tom DeVore tells us there's a chance for a Republican to take office after Pritzker's COVID policies alienated some voters.
Governor Pritzker's been pretty hard on people. That we have a lot of Democrats in our state. I know a lot of them. A lot of them are my friends. This progressive liberal agenda that Governor Pritzker and a very small group of people that he is with have been pushing does not set well with an overwhelming number of the moderate Democrats and independents in our state, and I think it's going to have an impact this year.
Another governor's race is happening in New York, where incumbent Kathy Hochul is facing 2 other Democrats. And to challenge the Democrats' pick, there are 4 Republicans competing in tonight's primary. New York Senator and Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is up for re-election. He's uncontested in the primary and will face Republican Joe Pinion this fall. Colorado's Governor Jared Polis is up for re-election too, and he'll face one of 2 Republicans who are trying to take office. The state also has 4 competitive U.S. House seats on the ballot this year.
Melina, we know this year there's a trend of voters switching parties. What can you tell us about this situation?
Yeah, Steve, an analysis by the Associated Press shows that around 1.7 million voters have changed their political preference just over the past year, with about 2/3 of that number, roughly around 1 million voters, switching to the Republican Party, with 600,000 voters switching to the Democrat Party. And this political preference change is mostly happening in the suburb areas. The Republican National Committee chimed in on this, saying that they think this is because Democrats and President Biden are out of touch with the American people, pointing to issues like higher gas prices, open borders, and rising crime. Now, it is important to note that historical trends do show that the political party of the sitting president tends to lose votes during the first midterm election cycle, so it is expected for Democrats to lose some seats in Congress this November. Steve, back to you.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.